Are you someone that is naturally yearning for depth on your path? And the way in which you're currently walking your path, maybe it doesn't feel as though you're able to connect into the world in such a way that you feel like those needs are being met. And this is quite common. A lot of people end up in these sort of fast-paced environments, but they're not actually connected to that way of living, and they don't want to be walking these paths, but they think that, hey, I guess I have to walk this path because I need to pay the bills, and they end up walking a particular path that doesn't really suit who they are as a person and also the work that they're meant to be doing in this lifetime. And so if you're that way inclined, I want to speak directly to you. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Joe Yuli, and over the past 5 years, I've helped people from all around the world to know their career paths. And I typically work with people that are spiritually inclined, creatively inclined, in the healing spaces, many of which are very deep, earthy, introspective souls. And a lot of the ways in which the world is working and the ways in which the world tells them to pursue their career path doesn't really work for them. It doesn't really suit who it is they are and who it is that they need to become as they go about pursuing the work that they feel called for. They will end up taking jobs in coffee shops and these fast-paced environments like go, 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 go. And yet what they want to do is seek this deep inner stillness, this sort of place where they can find peace and tranquility, where they can really connect into who they are and the place of this world and this universe that they find themselves in during their own personal mortality. And yet they get ripped from this space every single time they have to go up and have these sort of superficial conversations about the weather with so-and-so that they work with. Like, hey, how was the weather today? Oh, yeah, it's like cloudy. Oh, cool, it's cloudy. Oh, that's like so interesting. Oh, did you see the news last night? Oh, yeah, the news was like so good. And I can't even do it properly because I don't even do it or engage with this stuff. But I actually don't even watch the news anymore because it just pulls me out from this sort of a deeper state of the richer essence of the work, and very few times it'll come up to the surface. And many of the people even that I work with, these sort of people that I'm referring to that have this level of depth, when they start to move away from the superficial way of being, start to reconnect with the deeper layers of who they are and their soul and their purpose in this world. So there is this disconnection that happens when you get pulled to the surface in this way. And this disconnection that happens is often caused because we think that we're meant to sort of fit this mold in the world. We're meant to walk our path in a very particular way. Maybe we were even told by others, hey, you should walk the path of the lawyer because we all know lawyers get paid well. And so they start walking this path of the lawyer. And along the way, they start to recognize maybe they got a little voice. Maybe they just realize every now and then they're just looking a bit tired, or there's no vitality in them, or lust for the work that they're about to do. But they continue on doing it because that's what they're meant to do, without ever reflecting and saying, is this really what I want to be doing with my life? Is this what I'm meant for? Is this what I'm called for? Is this what I want to devote my mortality to? Which is a really important point, because the majority of your adult life, and this sort of broke my brain when I truly understood it, the majority of your adult life is in the world of work. The majority of your adult life is spent doing work. And so if you get the work piece wrong, the majority of your mortality, the majority of your existence, what that means is you're not able to do the work you're called for, and instead you end up doing typically the inverse. And sometimes I see it as a shadowed path, meaning that people will often pursue a path that is directly opposite to the actual path they're meant to be called for. One example comes to mind is a member that I worked with. I spoke to her actually today, and she said that she had really contemplated being an accountant, and yet she's very much into dance and music. I mean, you couldn't get very much more opposite than accountant, and then being purely in the body, moving around and taking and absorbing music and listening to the rhythm and listening to the beat. And that can often happen. So this way of walking paths in the world is typically centered around particular styles of being. And it's often not centered around deeper people. Instead, what it's centered around is progress. Typically, at the moment in the modern world, it's technological progress, progress within a way that we can all see it. And one of the problems with that is that it dismisses the intangible, it dismisses things that are unseen, things that might be sort of outside the domain of the physical, and here it is, it's super obvious. And this can cause people to say, okay, maybe I do have to work in these fast environments, I just need to figure this out, and I just need to get up to speed with this all, and yet they're not that way inclined. If you've ever gone swimming in a pool with a deep end, you would know, say there's 5 people around, and in the beginning, everyone's in the shallow end and everyone's like throwing water at each other. It's chaos, right? You can just imagine. It's kids throwing water at each other, people are yelling, laughing, playing. And then if you were to take that sort of scene and just imagine that you dived into the water and you swam right down to the deep end, and you were down in the deep end and you sat down on the pool floor and you started to look around and just absorb what you were witnessing, what you would notice is that being down in that deep end, there'd be the stillness, there'd be a sense of tranquility, of peacefulness. And even if there were voices, the voices of the people splashing in the shallow end, they'd be sort of muffled. You wouldn't really be able to hear them. And there would just be this sense of like ease. I'm okay here. And this sort of analogy that I'm sort of presenting you with can be a way of walking your path as well. And oftentimes we might think of walking our path as sort of like this go, go, go thing, this charging, this heated fire in order to begin to pave the way to walk our path, as if we're in some kind of war, as if we're in some kind of like, has to happen tomorrow, has to happen the day after. But instead, we can walk our path and walk our life in a way that has this feeling of like, okay, this is really what I'm meant for. And slowly move forward in a way that feels deeply fulfilling and deeply like, oh, I'm actually progressing in a way that, I was on a call the other day, and this lady said to me that there was this aspect of her work that she did which she felt like was sort of aligned with herself. And she said that when she was doing it, she felt the way she thought she should when she knew that she'd be doing the thing that she's meant to be doing with her life. And that's the kind of feeling that you get at the deep end of the pool. And that's the kind of feeling that you get when you're walking your path in a way that is deeply suited for you. There's this idea in Taoism, which is an Eastern philosophy. And the idea, and I'm very much paraphrasing it here, is to go with your own naturalness, to go with your own way of being. And one of the problems that we've sort of been set up for is that the world, in the way that people are naturally walking careers, it's very go, go, go. It's very rigid. It's very like ladder-esque, right? One ring up, one ring up, one ring up. Especially with the introduction of social media. People having to post all the time and on a schedule. It's like post, post, post. For example, if someone was to start an online business and they wanted to promote their services, something like go, 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 go. And yet, that doesn't align with people that are naturally deep people, that have this sense of introspection, that have this sense of needing to sort of find their own rootedness in themselves. And what they need to sort of be aware of is that you don't have to walk your path like that. Now, I don't want to just say that there's only one way to walk the path, which is one of deep inner connection. There's definitely people out in the world that can walk their path at speed, that enjoy fast-paced environments, that need to be around sort of energy and quick like sparks of movement forward. But that's not the only way to walk a path. There are many other ways to walk a path. And getting in connection to who you are as a person, who you are in your vocation, will help you to know what kind of path is for you. And if there is any sort of inclination that, hey, this fast-paced thing, it doesn't quite work for me, it typically means that it's not for you, and that instead the path for you is one that has a sense of slowness to it. It has a sense of allowing you the time to go deeper on a thing. To give you a more sort of like practical example, you might be someone that isn't geared for, hey, I need to post every single day, but instead you're geared for the writing of a book, the creating of a film, these bigger bodies of work, the creating of a philosophy, these bigger bodies of work that can't be approached in a matter of like it needs to be done on a quick schedule by tomorrow and then moving on to the next one. That requires a level of thought, a level of reflection, a level of pause, a level of going down to the deep end. And society won't help you get there. The reason that it won't help you get there is, I read this stat the other day, which was, I think it was like in 1971 till now, productivity has increased by 62%. And that was by the Bureau of Labor of Statistics. So we've increased drastically with how productive we are, how fast we've moved forward. But do you notice that even with the speed and the pace of moving forward, that we haven't said, okay, like that's a great speed. Now let's pause and let's get back in tune with ourselves and let's make sure that this is the right direction and let's do proper reflections. No, it's just like, well, faster and faster. People are still running from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. And by the end of the day, fucking burnt out and, completely fried. The amount of people that I've talked to over the past 5 years that are just done, toasted over it is wild. And that's because the world out there isn't going to give you a particular structure that's going to suit you. Instead, they're just going to push for productivity. They're going to push for momentum forward in the pursuit of whatever their personal goal was or the business aim was. And so we have to do it ourselves. And if we have this feeling of like this doesn't quite work for us, we have to disconnect or detach from it and reconnect with ourselves and say, okay, is this actually for me? Or do I need a path that allows me to go deeper? And once you are aware of that, the amazing thing is then it's just a matter of figuring out a structure that actually allows you to do that. And that's actually the easier part because that just requires some research. I help people to do that all the time within what I call the Unearthed membership, where there's a bunch of different people in that membership that I help to create these structures. But you first need to know, like, how is it that you want to live? And if you don't want to live in these fast-paced environments, then you have to say that. You have to say, hey, these fast-paced environments that aren't allowing me to really connect into myself, to really find my relationship with myself to the world, myself to society, myself to myself. If that's not happening, and if that stays in unawareness, then you end up getting stuck in this position of just thinking that for some reason there's something wrong with you when it's not. And it's just a matter of, like the Taoist philosophy that I mentioned before, it's just a matter of finding your own natural connection with the world. So if you are that way inclined, know that there are paths for you. There are paths that allow you to be slow, to be deep, to have your mornings where you can just, begin your day slowly as opposed to like rushing through the day and getting out the door and going to work in 2 seconds. I don't know if anyone's got to work in 2 seconds, but you catch my drift. And instead, you want to make sure that you say, okay, I'm going to walk a path that is in alignment with myself, even though I don't know how that looks right now. The beginning starts with an awareness and an acceptance that that isn't right for you. And so if you're interested in learning more about how I help people to know how to go about this, how to get that self-awareness, this thing that I call the career archetype, which helps people to know their path and know it with conviction, and also burn away temptation paths that might be close to the path, but they're not the right thing, or they might be a path that is pulling you in a direction that is wrong for you, but you're walking that because you think in some way that, hey, I need to get the bills paid, and that's the only way to get the bills paid, which isn't true, by the way. There's many ways to get the bills paid, many ways that are also aligned with who you are to get the bills paid. And I also show people how to overcome certain psychological barriers that hinder us on the route to our path. And I do this in an 8-week course. I also have live sessions in there. There's also different community members in there. And I do this as well by showing people these certain rituals and exercises that they need to do in order to come to an understanding of who they are and their career archetype so they can choose the right career path with conviction. So if you're interested, I'll leave a link underneath this video. You're more than welcome to check it out. And until next time.